Alright, so this is where we left off last time. I'm just going to quickly block out the eye. So let's hit tab and make sure that we are in object mode. So I'm going to select the head, tab, object mode. Then I'm going to hit shift A and I'm going to create a UV sphere. Just move it into place, scale it down. I'm going to press 3, go into the side view, and I'm just going to place the eyeball roughly where a little bit more inset where I think it should line up on the eye. So something like that. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drop it on the collection up here, hit Shift D and then hit Escape. Shift D will duplicate it down. Then I'm going to hit Shift D again. And now the reason I'm pushing Escape is because if I move my mouse around, it leaves it in move mode. So here's my upper lid, my eye, and my lower lid. So for now, what I'm going to do is just select this top sphere, turn on the transparency tab, hit Edit mode, and I'm going to select the faces on the bottom. So that's mine was already in face mode, but you could press 3, delete that. I'm going to go down to faces. I'm going to go to the one below that. Actually, let's make sure we're off edit mode here. Go down to this, hit tab, go to edit mode. Select these top faces here. This is going to be my lower lid and delete that. And then hit enter. So the next thing I need is this eyeball in here. Let's go ahead and uncheck this. That's another way of getting out of edit mode. Now, what I want to do with my eye is actually move it back a little bit like this. So I'm just kind of moving the eye, and I'm exaggerating a lot of this because you tend to, like I said in 3D, you want to exaggerate and then shrink later. So I'm going to go ahead and hit E and then R, and I'm just going to rotate this back, creating the upper lid. Now the bottom lid actually sits, and if you look at our reference here, it sits inset more than the top lid. The top lid actually goes further back. So I'm going to pull the bottom lid back, and then I'm going to hit E. I'm sorry, R rather, and I'm going to rotate that down. Now, another thing is, let's go back to edit mode. So I'm going to hit tab and then, edit mode here. Now with wireframe, or I'm sorry, with edges selected, so I'm going to hit 2. I'm going to Alt left click to select this entire ring that goes all the way around. And what I want to do is fill it. Notice that it's empty in here. So if I hit Alt and F, now, if you want to see all of the options, you can hit Control F, and that gives you all of this stuff. Insert face, extrude, all that good stuff. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to uncheck edit mode here. I'm going to jump to this top lid, hit 2, then Alt and click. So here's this guy here. Go to edit mode, Alt and click. Come on, there we go. And then Alt F quickly. So you can see now we have an upper lid and a lower lid. Now, if I press 1, that doesn't look too bad, but it is drastically exaggerated. But like I mentioned before, I don't mind that because we're going to move it around, and we want to exaggerate especially when we're first learning how to do a head, is you want to exaggerate those features so you have room to sculpt and move. The worst thing you can do is start trying to sculpt these tiny lids and stuff, and you run out of space, and you have to smooth and all that other good stuff. All right, so here's our upper lid. I'm not worried about naming these two. I do want to name this eye. But for this upper lid here, all I'm going to do is go to my modifier panel, hit mirror, and I'm going to select that head. And then I'm going to hit, let's make sure though that we're not in edit mode. There we go. I'm going to hit apply. So now that's across. I'm going to select the lower lid here. I'm going to mirror that as well. Let's select the head here. This is not in edit mode, so that's good. So I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to do the same thing for the eye here. Mirror, select the head. And then this one I think needs to be a little bit inside more of the eye. So I'm just going to shift that in just a tiny bit. Then I'm going to apply that as well. Now I'm going to select the head and then the upper lid and hit Control J. Now what that did with the upper lid, actually I want to go the other way around. I want to select the sphere and then the head and hit Control J. That way I don't have to rename it head. So this, Control click this. Let's make sure our head is also in object mode. This is in object mode. This is in object mode. Does my head have any modifiers? There we go. For some reason it just kept. So I'm going to do that and then hit here again and hit Control J. Oh, you know what it is? I had my cursor out here. It needed to be in the inside. Now they're all grouped, but they are still separate objects. You can see that here. So what I'm going to do to remedy that is tab and go to Sculpting Tools. And if I hit Shift and R, if you remember, I can adjust the scale of my the voxels. So I'm going to click because that looks pretty good. And I'm going to hit Control R. And that should remesh it all as one object. Now it looks kind of ugly, but I'm not worried about that because what I can do to clean this up, and here's another trick, we're going to start moving more into the sculpting hotkeys. So if I want to open Dyn Topo, I can click on it here, I can adjust it here, or you can hit Shift, or I'm sorry, Control D, and that opens Dyn Topo, or that turns Dyn Topo on. So you can either use the JN tools that I showed you in the first video. You can go in here now and edit this, or you can turn it on and off by hitting Control D. I'm going to pause this and save it because sometimes when it gets to this point, it gets a little crazy. Then we're going to quickly just create the tear ducts of the eye, and then I'm going to stop this video here, or stop the video after. All right, so with Dyn Topo on, what I like to do is I like to do constant detail. So you probably noticed that from the other videos. So I'm just going to hit F, hit C, and just quickly carve in the little area of the tear duct like this. So something like this, holding Shift to smooth all this good stuff out. Now, what I like to do for these kind of heroic characters, or if I know I'm going to make like a superhero or something, I tend to accentuate the brow and bring it over the eye like this. I tend to thin out a great deal that bottom eyelid. And then let's go ahead and grab our draw tool. So I like to do this in the gray area. Shift and hit space bar, tap it quickly, and you can bring up your options. And I'm just going to grab my draw tool, make it a little lower, holding Control, and just accentuate the eye. Give them some crow's feet just for the heck of it. Kind of makes your model end up looking pretty cool. Let's dig in there, around like this. And so there's the quick and dirty way. Let's go ahead and hit 5 to see how it looks. That looks pretty good. Now let's hit 1. So it doesn't look too bad. He could use a little bit of more shaping in the sides of the temples, thing like that, the top of the head. But I think for now, that's a pretty good generic head to just sort of start to work from that you can use to move things around. We might need to work, I think what I'll do in the next video, because we're going to be resculpting or redoing all of this stuff again on the our other model. Let me save this and open that up so you can see what we're doing in the next video. We're essentially going to be, this was more of a practice piece so you can just kind of learn my generic workflow. And then let me pause it and open up the other model. So what I'd like to do in the next video is this. If you remember, we have a model that we've been sculpting from the get-go of just this generic body. It doesn't have a head. We're really going to just do the exact same thing, but we're going to do it on on the entire torso so that we can kind of proportion it out. What's nice about this is if that was your first head you've ever made, and I don't expect it to be perfect, this will be your second. And then by the time we get to this Furries Hercules that we're going to make later, that will be your third head and you'll be a little bit more comfortable. And then we're going to move on to a set of videos on the female anatomy.